Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dr. Patrick Flynn, the Hormone Whisperer. I am so excited for our second episode of Living Hormoniously. So, as we're going to do today, we're going to go through what I believe is a very significant hormone through our series. All right? And what we're going to do is this. This series ends up very different from what I thought it was going to be. Fancy Nancy Gruzy and I, after our last episode, we actually were kind of blown away because the amount of questions that came in were by the hundreds, okay? I was actually just blown away, and I want to tell you all thank you so much for putting that on that way, okay? And to continue to ask those questions. But what ended up happening, we did something a little different last time. We actually did the questions at the end, all right? So I'm going to encourage you guys to do this. As I'm going through this, I will definitely take your private questions and we will get back to you. But I'm going to encourage you, Nancy's sitting here right now. And what I'd like to see is this. I'd like to see you guys, if you do have a question through the process, please do me a favor and actually post it on it right now. Okay, not right now, but we post on the thing. So as I'm starting to look at everybody's that's popping on right now, thank you guys for all of you guys that are constantly on. And what I want to do, here we go. There we go. So what I want you guys to do is this. So thank you, Annie, for jumping on. Brian, thanks for jumping on. So for all of you guys that are jumping on here, if you have any questions during the time, definitely ask them, because I really enjoy them, and we're going to go through it. So let's start here in our series, all right? Now, one thing we're going to cover today is what I believe is one of the missing links in hormones. Now, as we know, you say, Doc, we don't hear much about this hormone. We really don't, okay? Now, why is it when we talk about Pregnenolone, okay? And we're going to go through in great detail. And another thing that Nancy and I kind of find was kind of funny, last time, when we were sitting discussing all this, and I was talking to Ross and talking with all the docs, they're like, how long do you think the episode's going to be? I think Nancy and I are like, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes. 40 minutes later, we got done. All right, so it's kind of fun. So if you go back, now here's the one thing that's so important about the episodes too. Watch them in chronological order because they build upon themselves. So if you start at number 4, you will definitely actually know what we're going to cover. I'll try to do in great detail about that hormone, but everything builds upon it. So we're going to even talk about what happened at our first episode because it builds upon today. So Pregnenolone. Actually, I didn't create the name for it. It's called the mother hormone. Now, why? Once again, because what it does is it gives birth to all the steroid hormones. So that's why it's called the mother hormone. But why don't we hear? Why is it, if this, you say, Doc, you're the hormone whisperer. Why is it that if you say it's one of the most significant hormones that's totally forgotten about, why hasn't medicine, why hasn't medical research, why hasn't them really put a lot of significant things in there? You know why? I have an opinion on this. I'm going to tell you it's an opinion. Once again, I'm going to give you when I actually give you direct facts and physiology and how things work, it's actually true science. But I'm going to give you my opinion on this. Dealing within the hormonal realm, the hormones that get the most, let's say, publicity, the most talked about, are the ones that they can manipulate or inhibit or replace medically. So synthetically, okay? If they have nothing to replace a hormone or manipulate or inhibit it that way, they don't talk about it much. They don't really have a pregnenolone replacer medically. Because once again, if it's not done medically, guess what happens? They can't patent it and charge enormous amounts of money to replace it and sell it to insurance. See, you can actually take an oral form of pregnenolone. It's just more of a natural substance, so you can't patent it. So all these people, for example, that want to create some medication for it, they haven't. So guess what happens? You don't really hear much about it, but it does so much. And in today's society, I'm going to show you why this hormone is so key for people's long-term health. So where do we go? So let's start here. Let's get through our tips through the process that way and understand a lot about this hormone. Number 1, Pregnenolone. It converts from cholesterol. Now, if you remember during our first series, our first episode that way, we talked massively how all steroid hormones, once again, the steroid hormones actually make up most of the hormones produced by the ovaries and the gonads and adrenals. But here's what happens, is what it does, it converts from cholesterol. It's the first hormone that's produced actually from cholesterol. You can't go from cholesterol to testosterone. You cannot go from cholesterol to actually estrogens, okay, so to like estradiol. Because why? It first has to convert into that first amino acid hormone, which comes from cholesterol, and then guess what happens? It's pregnenolone. And then that hormone now can convert to all the rest of them that way. See, so it's interesting. So this hormone is so very important because, once again, as it's classified as the mother hormone, guess what happens? It's one of the biggest demands on our cholesterol. It's not the biggest, but it's one of the biggest demands on our cholesterol because, once again, we do have a lot of steroid hormones, and it comes from that. So if you look, so that's why it's kind of neat. Here's one thing where you can actually, once again, debunk the whole cholesterol myth, which Dr. Greg has done extensively about cholesterol being a medical scapegoat. Understand, as you see here, any steroid hormone chart. So let's do this. I love when people can do their own research. So jump on Google and just type in the blank there. Type in steroid hormone pathway. Let me say it again. Steroid hormone pathways. Now, once again, there's pathways that hormones that they convert from one form to the other. And what you'll notice on every chart possible, you'll always see cholesterol on top. But the coolest thing that you will see now is when cholesterol converts to pregnenolone, that converts to everything else. And we're going to go in detail. Actually, our whole series, guys, excuse me, Nancy, Remy, I have to stop saying series. All of our episodes. I've never done episodes before, so this is kind of cool. All of our episodes, once again, we're actually going to cover, see this chart right here? Now, believe it or not, we're going to cover every one of those hormones. We are. That's why you want to follow episodes in order, because we're going to be able to show you, once again, how they're all created and what's the significant importance to them that way. So let's always start here. Cholesterol converts into pregnenolone. So therefore, no cholesterol, no pregnenolone. It just doesn't work that way. Do you know what I'm saying? It just doesn't get a lot of pregnenolone with no cholesterol. So that conversion right there is extremely important. Now, it's interesting. So people say, Doc, well, sometimes people can have plenty of cholesterol and they actually can have very low pregnenolone. Yeah, because they're missing an enzyme. They're missing something that helps convert it from that cholesterol to pregnenolone. So what does that? It's one of the reasons, like right now, in our office for the next 10 days, we actually have a very nice thing we're all doing. We're all actually going through our detox that we're doing, all right? Because a lot of this conversion does happen within the mitochondria. A lot of this conversion does happen in the liver. So as we're starting to do those conversion things, there's things that you can actually put into your body that will help that conversion. Number one, the one thing I like the most is I love to sip on dandelion tea. You know, it's interesting. I kind of find this kind of funny. You know, if we're the only, in our neighborhood at one time, it's kind of funny because everybody puts on weed killers, which are toxic poisons. That's on our show. But the idea is this, is everybody wants to kill off dandelions. Dandelions, once again, no joke, you could literally go out in your ground and pick them off and put them in your salad, and you'd have massive medicinal benefit that way. Dandelions are not a weed. Dandelions are an herb, okay? I always tell people, my always stay is this, who decides what is a flower and what's a weed? Do you understand? Because it's not based on a classification, because actually it's an herb, it's not even a weed, all right? Second of all, it's like it's like, here, I give the example of this. Who decides whether the cute animals we eat and the cute animals we don't? Do you understand? It's kind of funny. It's like, so when you actually look at a dandelion tea, for example, is a wonderful, they have a great enzyme in there. Okay, it's a 3-beta enzyme. You don't have to know that. That's a little more detail for doctors. But what happens is there's certain food substances that you can eat to make sure that this conversion actually does it. And one of the greatest things that we love sipping on, so if you see us kind of sometimes walk around, yes, sometimes a lot with organic coffee, but what you also have is actually some dandelion tea, all right? Another thing that actually has that enzyme to convert that cholesterol into pregnenolone, it's going to be quite interesting, because a lot of people get this wrong, because a lot of people are on this crazy, ridiculous, no carbohydrate kick. Okay? It's really interesting. I had a woman today actually ask me, she stopped in, I was chatting with her a little bit. She goes, yeah, she goes, I find myself more paleo, or I find myself more ketogenic that way. I'm like, guys, listen, okay? I have no problem with either one of those, but you understand, and I don't know where they get this from, because here's what happens. Is a lot of people are always like, big fad right now is keto. And I'm like, anybody that's an expert in keto will tell you right out, that's not your normal physiology. You can't always keep your body there. And so when I tell people to take this, they're like, it's against my paleo diet or it's against my ketogenic diet. And that's why your hormones suck. Let me say that again. That's why your hormones suck. One of the greatest foods that actually do a wonderful job of converting cholesterol to pregnenolone is a cold potato. Let me say it again. You take potatoes, you cook them. Okay, you let them cool down, and once again has a lot of 3-beta in there for that conversion that way. Now, once again, I know a lot of you paleo and a lot of you keto people freak out, but there's massive enzymes in there. Now, believe it or not, it's actually the structure changes the potato from it goes to hot to cold. All right. And see, when you heat it, you actually release that enzyme. When you cool it, it makes it available that way. That's why it's kind of funny. You can actually go back in history and look, there's actually a weight loss book that's called the potato diet. And what they're really doing is they're making really strong hormones. And hormonally, that's why some people can eat really badly all day long and be very skinny. Because why? Their hormone system deals with it that way. So the idea is this, that one of those enzymes in there. So I always tell people, so get and make some really good potato salad. Do you understand? Make some good, healthy potato salad with all the good ingredients that way, some good organic ingredients, get some good organic white potatoes that way, and guess what? Let them cool down, and you actually can have some enzymes in there, okay? So those are some of the things that you can actually do on a food basis, help that happen there, and actually help our cholesterols actually convert to the first stage of hormones that way. So now, before we go any farther, I just want to say hello to everybody. Hello, Amy. Hello, Annie. Katrina. Kalina. Okay. How are you guys that way? Thank you. Now, please do me a favor. Could you please do me a favor? Could you give me a like and give me a share on this and get this information out to people? Because once again, as I'm going in more detail of all the hormones, I believe that all these episodes could actually change the direction of almost everybody's life. Okay? Because if you have hormones, you need to watch this series because no one will teach us like I do. I promise you that. If they would, somebody would have already done it that way, but they do not. All right? So let's go back to this. So understand that conversion. And if you understand that, that's why you understand why cholesterol is so important. But then when it goes to pregnenolone, it goes to all the rest. Now, here's one thing that's really important. What's our motto? It's measurable. Okay? All these hormones are very measurable. Once again, the reason why it's not usually measured is because what does it do? It doesn't have any really good clinical significance to the average medical professional because there's nothing to replace it that way. On the flip side, they don't even understand the function of pregnenolone. Now we do. I mean, actually, no joke. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to jump on Google and actually just read what pregnenolone does. And actually, when you do research it most of the time, all of your scientists will tell you it has more to do with the neurological system than it does even the hormonal system, and that's the part that we're going to really go on that way. So as you can see, it should be measurable. And speaking of Dr. Kalina, actually, it was kind of neat when I was actually down in our Mississippi office that way. I got to speak to one of her patients, and it was great to look at her beautiful labs of this wonderful lady she was taking care of that way. And did she have hormonal problems? Yeah, she had a lot of health problems that way. And so Doc did a wonderful job, and that's why I stuck it in our hormone episodes this way. She did a great blood test, which can be done by any doctor. Now, let me say that again. I will talk a lot about the Wellness Way doctors. Why? Because they're extremely highly trained. They think about everything and about how we do every episode this way. To them, this is normal practice that way. Okay? But it's not normal practice in standard healthcare today. That's why we're so sick. It's why hormone problems are so bad. So pregnenolone, once again, is best measured in blood. Now, you guys know I love a lot of testing that way. You can't measure it in urine. Okay, that's why blood is the best measurement for it that way. Believe it or not, you do get some in the saliva. It just can change very quickly in the saliva and give you an inaccurate reading. So saliva is not my favorite one for it. Actually, blood is. All right. So that means this, guys. So if you want to start your hormonal venture, you have to start with pregnenolone. You have to. All right. And so here's the key about it this way. Get a blood test. Actually, just ask any doctor. Once again, this is not some specialized test that only our clinics do. Any clinic, any lab, anything can do it at any time. You just have to request it. But because in most of healthcare, it has nothing to do with any possible recovery, guess what happens? They won't measure it that way. So here is actually a wonderful lady that Dr. Kalina was dealing with down there. And she evaluated and said, listen, I know this woman has to be hormonally deficient. And she ran blood work, and guess what happens? It was so low on the woman. You know, on this range, it's going to be anywhere from 6 to 91. She was at less than 5. They actually stopped measuring when it was so low. The lab's just like, it's well below 5. We just stopped measuring. It was almost non-existent in this woman. And I personally, when I was down there, I got to talk to this lady, and I asked her about her cognition, about her memory, about that. Now, it's very key, especially when I get to my next point, all right? So once again, guys, it's really intensely to understand that, number one, you have to get these things measured. It's one of the most basic things, but once again, it's not a standard for medicine, once again, because there's no way of replacing it that way. So step number one, so action steps of all these things. Number one, make sure you have your cholesterol levels measured, and then lead into the first hormone, pregnenolone. Once again, get that done by blood, all right? Now, second of all, here's the cool thing is this, and this is the big thing of today. Pregnenolone, it's made in multiple organs. It's made in the brain, it's made in the adrenals, it's made in the gonads, so both the ovaries and the testicles for males. But also, it's made slightly in the white blood cells and some other areas. It's actually made a little bit in the saliva glands that way. But the majority of it, for example, believe it or not, people know pregnenolone as the mother hormone. I actually think that's misleading. I really do. Let me explain why, okay? I think that's misleading for one thing, because what it does, the minute you say pregnenolone, most doctors actually know it, for example, as a steroid hormone precursor, and that pulls them away from the major key, that the majority of our pregnenolone is actually made and produced and used within our brain. Now, why is that key? Okay? A lot of people don't realize this, that our neurological system, our brain and nervous system, use the majority of cholesterol. Use it. Now think about that. That's why when you start to lower cholesterol, that's when you start to take statin drugs. It's one of the major reasons why dementia and Alzheimer's are actually at an all-time high. You lower cholesterol, you lower the activity, you lower the mitochondria activity, you lower the hormonal aspects in the brain and nervous system and how it works. That's why statin drugs have such a major negative effect on our hormonal system as far as steroids in our body, but that's why you see so many neurological symptoms that are listed as side effects for statin-based drugs. Because why? That hormone, for example, is so widely used in our neurological system. In what way? Guess what? Actually, pregnenolone isn't really classified as a steroid hormone. It has some classification of it, but it's really classified as a neurosteroid. Once again, because why? Because the brain is what uses the majority of it that way. See, it's interesting because if I see low pregnenolone in the bloodstream, okay, as you saw that lady that was 71 years old, my first thought process is not all the other steroid hormones. My first thought process, and in a well way doctors' first thought process is, oh my goodness, cognitively, neurologically, memory, mood, everything is affected directly. Do you follow me in that? See, we can't measure the amount of pregnenolone in the brain. We just know by the usage, it's mainly used by the brain, and we do use it for hormones. It's kind of funny because people say, Doc, but hormones dictate a person's life. There's no doubt they do. They can change in a minute and change the whole aspect of a person. But the majority of that mother hormone is actually used by our brain and neurological system. So that's why if it's low in the blood, I can't even imagine the significant amount of deficiencies, the significant amount of lack, the significant amount of emptiness that the brain and nervous system actually goes through. And then you wonder why, for example, depression, anxiety, dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and every neurological disorder is at an all-time high. And the funny part is this, and your doctor wants to tell you cholesterol is bad for you. I know, trust me, it makes no sense. It doesn't. And this is basic. I mean, my goodness, Noah behind the camera is 16 years old. And to him, he's like going, this is just basic. You're right, it is. Because you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. You just have to understand how the body works. But our whole healthcare system is not based on how things work and how to get them back to normal. Because once again, normal people don't pay any money. You know what I'm saying? That's why I tell people, pregnenolone is not really that popular in all healthcare. Because why? Because there's no money into it. There isn't. There's no patented drug yet that's going to replace it. That's why you don't hear much about it that way. But the funny thing is this, you say, Doc, it's a neurosteroid, and the myelin sheath, now, I mean, sometimes I'm always going to try not to use a lot of medical words, otherwise what happens is people, what they do is they leave confused. Just imagine this. Imagine a wire that has a coating on it. The coating was what causes the electricity to go down so quickly. Okay, that's what happens with a nerve. A nerve has a sheath that's called the myelin sheath. It actually what makes the nerve work so fast. I mean, it's actually really fast. And if there's some breakdown of that myelin sheath, guess what happens? Neurological things start to slow down. Okay, that's why you see some of the major chronic illnesses today, okay, neurologically. Now, once again, let's correlate this. Why is it that statin drugs actually have a side effect, for example, a negative side effect with Alzheimer's and dementia? Because it's causing your brain to degenerate. It's causing your neurological system not be able to have the constituents to build and rebuild those nerves. That's kind of scary, and they get away with it. You know what I'm saying? But there's got to be doctors that will stand up and say, no, this isn't right, because you can't lower a neurosteroid. That's the medical classification for it. Think about that. Everything's classified medically that way. So they know this, but there's no treatment for it. So your general practitioner, your neurologist, and all these people, for example, and all your specialists, guys, it's really funny. I'm going to do a series. I'll do a series, probably two episodes or something that way, on why going to the doctor is one of the most detrimental things, and why other doctors, people say, Doc, what's your credentials? I'm like, here's what happens. Here's my background. And they look and go, well, what does it give you authority to speak on a flu shot? Because I'm not going to listen to the morons that make our healthcare system so bad, and it only takes logic or reason, some understanding to understand what they're telling you is ridiculous. It's just because they convince, they put on TV that, guess what, it doesn't make it right. So as your doctors are saying, well, my cardiologist said that cholesterol is bad. It's not bad. It makes no sense, okay? Just like this, when they lower cholesterol and lower pregnenolone, it causes neurological degeneration. That means you're going to end up just like everybody else. You know, it's really funny. I kind of giggle because a lot of people know I love politics. Well, the cool thing about politics is this. Hillary Clinton's, one of her major things is, I'm going to go a war on, Alzheimer's and dementia and Parkinson's. I'm like, really? Then you have to stop taking the drug money from the companies that sell cholesterol drugs, which she doesn't, which she wouldn't. You say, and so you're not going to cause a war on Alzheimer's, because they're one of the major causes of Alzheimer's and dementia and those things that way. Okay? So once again, these are things that you will not hear. That's why these episodes are so important. I will give you information that nobody's going to give you, and I have science to back it up. Okay? That's the cool part. So now, sorry, go on for that forever. All right. So it's a neurosteroid, okay? Remember that as a major aspect of it. It's one of the reasons why, once again, neurological conditions are all-time high. Low pregnenolone, guess what? Neurological system actually takes a beating, but once again, it still is the precursor for our adrenal hormones and also for our steroid hormones, which leads to this. It does. It converts to all steroid hormones. It converts to them all. That means, for example, that lady that had that low pregnenolone, okay? So the low mother hormone, the one that gives birth to all the other hormones, well, guess what happens? Dr. Kalina didn't just measure the pregnenolone, she measured all of them. She measured all of them. And as you can see, as we go on through these episodes, we're going to go through these hormones in great detail. Her DHEA was low, her testosterone, her free testosterone, her vitamin D. See, and there was other hormones on there that were low. I just didn't put them up here, okay? But what ended up happening was this. Pregnenolone actually converts to all the other steroid hormones. So, once again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that if one bucket is empty, you're not going to be able to fill the other buckets that way. Well, that's the one thing that happens. Pregnenolone became very low, and then guess what? All the other steroid hormones are low. Now, the basic medical professional would have actually never measured pregnenolone. They actually would have saw DHEA or some of the other steroid hormones were low, and they would have synthetically replaced it with hormone replacement or hormone replacement. Now, here's the funny part is this. Let's say that a person is very deficient in hormone and they take some synthetic form, guess what happens? They feel amazing. They do. That's why people say, Doc, I'm on hormone replacement, I can't live without it. No, you can't live without it because your bucket's still empty. And if you stop taking the synthetic part, it didn't get your hormones back to normal. You just stopped taking something that could give it a little bit of relief that way. So just understand this, that when you look at, for example, the conversion there, good luck having any of the other hormones. It's very common that when you have pregnenolone low, actually it causes the other steroid hormones to go low, with one exception. Well, if we were to go back, it's interesting. So we're going to go back here. I'm going to show you something. We're going to go backwards now, okay? So we're going to go backwards to this slide right here. Now, as we get in more detail, I'm going to show you. Pregnenolone converts into all of our major steroid hormones, but they can go in different directions, okay? For example, just to give you an example, what happens is the pregnenolone can convert into our anabolic, our buildup hormones, or they can go towards our stress hormones. And our stress hormones, for example, convert into our progesterone and then our cortisol and cortisone. It's interesting because she was low on actually a lot of her anabolics, on all of her anabolics, but her progesterone actually started to elevate. You say, why? Well, we're going to skip forward now to where we just were. Now, if you look, for example, All these hormones convert even to progesterone, but here's the big thing. Your steroid hormones, for example, are also your adrenal hormones. So a lot of stress. So for example, if you have a lot of mental stress, what will happen is that pregnenolone will be stolen for the production of your stress hormones. Well, let's look at this, okay? So if you look at, these are the areas of the adrenal gland. Once again, I won't teach that until I get later into the adrenals. But what happens is, here's the areas of adrenal glands. Oh, where does that hormone come from? Cholesterol. So let's think about this, guys. If I were to attack you, right now you're sitting here watching on your TV, and all of a sudden, guess what? Your house catches on fire. Your cholesterol is going to skyrocket, and it's supposed to for you to survive. Why? Because you hear that alarm, and guess what happens? You hear that alarm, and all of a sudden your body goes into that whole fight or flight. Your adrenals start kicking in. In order for you to escape that stress, you need those stress hormones. So your cholesterol will go up. That's why I kind of giggle when people say, Doc, well, you don't like cholesterol at 500. You don't like cholesterol even at 400. Yeah, but when you think like we do, we don't try to synthetically lower it. We say, listen, your body's under stress. Let's find out what the stressor is, okay? But here's one thing that's really key for females. As you can see, they all convert in all areas, they all convert to pregnenolone. But if you look at this one area right here, it goes from pregnenolone to progesterone to cortisol and cortisone. Now think about that. They convert. It converts into your stress hormones. It converts into your inflammatory hormones. Now it's interesting because if you look anywhere on this chart, you don't see testosterone. It's why men can actually handle stress better than women. Oh, I know that's going to get a lot of not likes. But you guys, guess what, ladies? Biologically, men will always be able to handle physical, mental, chemical stress better than you ever can. I'm waiting for all the, all the unlikes and all the sad and angry faces coming from it. Because when actually, no joke, when I speak in California, they hate it. When I speak down south, they don't. Do you understand? Guys, this isn't a tear on women. See, what happens is the reason why women, for example, are actually so sick today, I always said, you guys heard me say it so much, mental stress. See, guys' hormonal system, when I get to that part, when I get to testosterone, actually sugar is what kills guys. It'll destroy their hormones. So women will be killed by mental stress. Actually, guys will be killed by sugar. That's why it's very different. That's why a guy can stop actually drinking soda and lose 20 pounds in a week. Now, it's over-exaggeration, but you get my point. And a woman stops actually soda, and guess what happens? Nothing happens. You see, because it's not her major stressor that way. It's why a woman can eat bad, and actually it's a woman who actually can eat good, and she can still gain weight, all right? Because of this pathway right here. Because your adrenals, for example, which are part of your steroid complex, guess what? Pregnenolone could be stolen, and that can actually, stress can drain it. It can. And then you have no actually hormone left for all the good buildup and repair aspect that way. So guys, ladies, guess what? Stress will destroy you. It really will. I mean that sincerely, ladies. Stress will actually destroy you. Now, once again, Nancy, I want to see if anybody's... Hey, a lot of comments today. Okay, not done yet. We'll do the questions at the end and stuff like that. So, okay. I love this. Here's Megan. Great. I love this response. Learning something new every day. Now, Megan, I can see that you're a young lady. The sad part is this. I kind of giggle. I like to use humor a lot. Okay, that's why if you ever see my Hormone Connection seminar, it's actually, I'll make you laugh, but I'll also make you cry. Okay, in a good way. But the idea is this: is you're a young lady that way. It's sad that women have to find out all these things after they're already sick. It's sad that women, for example, don't understand this. My little girls do. I teach my little girls this stuff all the time so they can understand their body that way. See, you say, well, Doc, should guys know this? Yes. The reason why guys should know that stress kills a woman, because my famous saying is this. It's really simple. Who stresses out more, Nancy? Men or women? Nancy will tell you, women. Who causes women the most stress? Men. My Hormone Connection seminar, no joke, I can prove this to you, that guess what? Guys contribute to more illness to women than everything in history. Ladies, you think your eating bad makes you sick? Your husband makes you sicker than your eating does, okay? Now all the women that didn't like the statement before, now is going to love that one. They're going to be pushing hearts like crazy on that one. But it's true. And then the sad part is this. I always said, and that's why the Hormone Connection seminar got so popular. That's why the title said end the battle between the sexes, is because number one, if we don't understand this, I understand this. I really do. All my docs do. And we were trying to teach people this because, once again, a lot of women, for example, are so hormonally drained because they're so mentally stressed out. They really are. And you say, well, Doc, then what can you do for them long term? Well, you're right. We can give them things that will help create some balance to their hormones. But I tell them, if you're under a lot of mental stress, I may be able to keep you from getting sick and give you things to help those hormones stay up at least to a normal range. But the minute you stop taking them, they're going to tank again because you're not dealing with the stressors that way. All right? So that's why we always talk about the Wellness Way is the premier clinics across the world, okay, that address all stressors. Just because you address foods and nothing else, guess what happens? You can see some positive change, but that's one stressor. There's multiple stressors. And I would say this beyond a shadow of a doubt, dealing with women for almost 20 years. The number one thing that actually drains female hormones is mental stress. All right? Ladies, you have to understand that because you see yourself getting stressed out, you will steal your Pregnenolone, it will drop, it'll push it in the way that your body wants to survive. The bad part is the other part, for example, it needs for you to repair and grow and do those things as a woman don't exist. It's why, for example, it's why under high stress, guess what happens? It can steal that cholesterol and steal that Pregnenolone so your body doesn't want to die and actually pulls it from your brain. It really does. That's how actually stress can actually cause your hippocampus, a part of your brain, to shrink because you don't have the very materials there because it's going to your adrenals to survive. It's kind of sad. So just understand that this is a big key. It's why I'm going to preach till the day I die, ladies. You gotta watch your stress. And number two, guys, stop stressing your woman out. I don't want to be a contributing aspect to my wife of contributing illness to her. I don't want to do that for our daughters. Guys, we have to take this seriously because they worry about it all the time. So, okay, Nancy. Pregnenolone, recap, just understand the majority of it is actually used by our brain neurological system, even though it's produced in all parts of our body, mainly our adrenals and mainly, once again, our sex glands as far as our gonads, our ovaries and their testicles. Once again, it has a major effect at producing, once again, myelin, the myelin sheath. It's a neurosteroid for neurological growth and regeneration that way. It can actually convert to all of our steroid hormones. It converts from cholesterol and stress, mental stress or any stressor, can actually cause it to convert into our stress hormones or anti-inflammatory hormones for our body to survive that stressor. Now, Nancy, I see we have a bunch of questions. You know what's really funny? As I pop up too, I see my email, because yes, you can go to, is it ask Dr. Patrick at twclinics.com?
Yes.
Okay, so yes. Because what happens, I know you guys send me questions there. I always like them here so we can answer them that way. So definitely put as many as you can on here. So Nancy, what kind of question? I will repeat the question since you cannot hear her.
There are a couple more generic, just about hormones. Casey's wondering, any benefits to using apple cider vinegar for menopause symptoms while waiting for hormones to balance out?
Any benefit to using apple cider vinegar? Why?
For menopause.
For menopausal symptoms, while you're waiting for hormones to balance out. Okay, two-part question there. I'll answer number one, yes. There's always a benefit to apple cider vinegar, and here's why. I'll use this chart. Just understand that, once again, stress and inflammation, so mental stress, cortisol, and cortisone actually come from pregnenolone. All right? So now what happens is anything you do to reduce inflammation, anything you do to reduce actually irritation to the GI system will put a lesser demand on our hormonal system. So by taking apple cider vinegar, you do have a better bacteria, you do have higher nutrients, you do have better acidity and basic aspects of our body that way. You do have a better small and large intestine, you do have a better stomach. So yes, it's going to help put a lower demand on your hormonal system for repair. Okay, but second of all, that question, let me say this. There is no such thing as menopausal symptoms. Let me say it again. There is no such thing as menopausal symptoms. If a menopause is as normal as the sun going up and down in the next 24 hours. If you live long enough, you're going to hit menopause. Okay, it's not a disease. There is no symptoms of it. Okay, it's a normal process of life. But when women enter menopause, their hormones are already horribly off. So they go through symptoms as mood, vaginal dryness, neurological things, hot flashes. But here's what happens. And as they approach doctors like us that understand this process and get their hormones back to normal, those symptoms go away, but guess what's still there? Their menopause. So menopause is a God-given natural biological process. The symptoms during menopause are evidence that you're sick. There's no such thing as menopausal symptoms. Okay? Next question.
Holly, what hormones or lack of hormones are responsible for hot flashes and night sweats?
What hormones or multiple hormones are actually responsible for hot flashes and night sweats? One of the major ones that we all know of, it's why you see a lot of herbals come out, for example, for hot flashes that way, is usually to deal with our estrogens. Okay? Once again, we're going to get into their estrogens, and the reason why I say estrogens because there's multiple of them. Okay? There's not one. Estrogen is not a hormone. Estrogen is a name for a bunch of chemically similar hormones. So usually it becomes a deficiency in some of the estrogens. Now, once again, since there's multiple ones, could I directly say that's estradiol? Nope. Could I directly say it's estrone? Nope. But if those were low, could it cause a hot flash or night sweats? Yes, it could. See, it's interesting because here's what happens. When actually become low in actually hormones, what happens is your body says, listen, I need to produce them. So it's going to go to your adrenals, it's going to go to your fat tissue and ask it to make it. So you're going to put out some adrenal hormones, which can cause some adrenaline and other things to actually speed up your heart, cause a hot flash that way. But also, too, ladies, get this. Get hormonally deficient. Your body says, listen, I have to make hormone. Guess what? Let's produce some fat. Because fat actually does a wonderful job of converting your hormones into our normal levels that way. It's why sometimes when women go into menopause and their hormones are imbalanced, they're not normal, and they produce fat tissue, and then they come to me and say, Doc, I have no idea why I'm gaining weight. I haven't changed anything. And they just blame it on menopause. Gaining weight is not a menopausal symptom because there is no menopausal symptoms. All right? Great question. Next one.
All right, Amy. If my cholesterol is at a recommended range, why is my sex drive low?
Okay. Here's what happens. Recommended range by who? She said, why? Amy said, why is my... Wait, say again. If my cholesterol is in my recommended ranges, why is my sex drive low? Well, there's a couple reasons. And actually, I'll go back to this chart. Let me go here. Okay, just like testosterone in a guy, it's one of our very high, sex driving hormones that way. It is. That's why guys have a major sex drive compared to a woman. Women do have testosterone. They're supposed to have it that way. But here's what happens, okay? Your cholesterol is up here, your testosterone is down here. There's a lot of conversions that happen for it to work properly that way. So once again, you can have sufficient amount of cholesterol and actually can go in other directions and produce it where it's needed and never get to make the sufficient amount of testosterone that you need, okay? Also, for example, there actually can be something wrong with your liver that doesn't allow you to actually bring your cholesterol levels up and high enough to actually produce your hormones that way, okay? Because in a woman, most of your testosterone actually is produced by your adrenals and also some by your ovaries that way. And if you do not actually have a significant amount of cholesterol, and if you do, it's actually going to go towards the things that are actually making the most. My estimate would be that your body's under stress and it's going to move it more towards cortisol, and you have lack of testosterone being produced, and that's why you don't have a sex drive. Okay? Next question.
Kind of along the same lines, what about low libido? How is that best supported?
How is low libido best supported? Actually, let's go here. Two of the major hormones, once again, ladies, that you have to have measured for actually your libido are your testosterone and your DHT, your dihydrotestosterone. So by getting those measured, nobody measures DHT. Nobody does. It's actually kind of crazy. No, we do, but I'm saying nobody out there medically does that way. Now, don't get me wrong. Do your estrogens have an effect on your libido? Sure, it does. But what really actually makes a woman's sex drive go up is just like a male, is their testosterone levels that way. And it's kind of like this. You have a lot of women, for example, that do have PCOS, which one of the major contributors to PCOS is elevated testosterone levels. And I talked to a significant amount of women that came in with PCOS, or actually they'll send me a message on Facebook and say, Doc, my sex drive's through the roof. And I'll say, my response is, do you have PCOS? They're like, yeah, how'd you know? I'm like, because once again, your testosterone levels are affected majorly that way. And you can have PCOS in a later stage, and your actually sex drive can drop dramatically because it pulls all towards DHT. Once again, It's going to be great going through all these episodes because what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to go through all those stages. That's why I told you. This whole series is probably going to take me 6 months to go through as I go through all of these hormones and what it does. Because when I get to the progesterones or the cortisols or the testosterones, I'm going to go into great detail of that and how it even gets there. Nancy, any other questions?
I think that's all we have for now.
Great. Great. So, how the heck did this already take 35 minutes? Oh, guys, I really think I'm going, okay, we're going about 15 minutes and it's 35. Guys, thank you for watching episode 2. Let me end on this. Here's what happens. The episodes are all about bringing you information that you will never hear. I promise you, no one will teach you Pregnenelone like this. It's not that you can't find it, it's just that nobody applies it to clinical practice. Please do me a favor. The next time that you go to any doctor, make sure that you actually have Pregnenelone measured that way. It's so important for the aspect of all areas of your life that way. Just like Dr. Kaylina took that one lady, okay, and started to actually make the positive change there, it's going to change the whole direction of her life. Why? Because she knows what to do with those hormones and she knows how to get back to normal, and then the clinical results are going to come, and all these doctors are going to be so surprised that they went to this doctor, this natural doctor, which I hate that term. Like I said, she went to this chiropractor, and got everything balanced out and got everything back to normal, when actually they can't do it medically. They can't do it medically because, once again, they don't even test it properly, and that's where one of the biggest deficiencies comes in hormones. They don't understand, for example, where they are or what they do, but what they don't do is know how to test them properly to make sure everything is normal. So, Nancy's looking at me kind of funny. That means we probably have one more question.
It means we have a few more questions.
Oh, a few more questions. I love it. Guys, trust me. If you, this will be recorded, so if you need to go someplace or watch something there, it'll be up on our YouTube channel. It'll be up on our Facebook. So here we go. What do you got?
Okay, we have a couple more. Is there any hope after getting a complete hysterectomy?
Is there any hope after getting a complete hysterectomy? Yes, there is. There really is. Now, let me tell you something. And if there's one part, for example, that might frustrate some of you guys, but I would be ticked. The reason why I get so upset and passionate and call doctors morons all the time is because of stuff like this. See, I'm not saying that some ladies don't need a full hysterectomy. Now, I will say this. If I could have got a hold of them 20 years ago, they might not have needed one. That's not an arrogant statement. It's just that the conditions that led to the full hysterectomy could have been avoided. All right? You're meant to have those organs your whole life. But let's say you needed a full hysterectomy. Here's the funny part is this. 20 years ago, HRT was so standard, it told you need to be on it the rest of your life. But then when it started causing heart problems, which we're going to get into those hormones later, when it started to cause cancer, which is one of the number one side effects of HRT, hormone replacement therapy that way, they actually started to do full hysterectomies and then not put women on hormones because they didn't want to give them cancer. And they just left them. Now, is there a great alternative? Yes, there is. Once again, and I'll make this very clear, it's okay to use a bioidentical if you know what you're doing. Once again, here at the local Green Bay Purveya and Aurora and all those guys that think they know what they're doing because they took a weekend functional medicine class, which, for example, functional medicine doesn't have a right either, but the idea is they take a class and they even advertise, we're an integrative doctor, we're a functional medicine doctor, and they put them on bioidenticals at levels of a cyclic woman. And they're going to cause them to be cancer. We actually had Purveya doctor. I did a show on this. We had a Purveya doctor here that put a woman on bioidenticals, got her testosterone and estrogen levels so high, it scared the crap out of me because it was even higher than a 14, 15, 16-year-old cyclic young girl is, where it really gets elevated that way. And he said, she said, the doctor said, medical doctor said to her, don't worry, they're natural. You can't get cancer from them. Let me say it again. They're natural. You can't get cancer from them. I looked and she thought that made sense. And I looked at her, I was sitting there, and I said, well, let me see a question. How natural are your own hormones? And we know that estradiol and estrone and all the other estrogens that can elevate and cause you cancer, and those things are the most natural for your body, are the ones you make. I mean, really, this is the BS that doctors tell people that way. Now, if you've had a full hysterectomy, guess what happens? You actually will need, now let me go on the flip side. If you had a full hysterectomy, you need bioidenticals the rest of your life, period. There's no other way around it, because the adrenals and fat tissue that you will put on when you're so hormonally deficient will never catch up and be able to make the hormones you need. Okay? Now, guys, you're going to find out this. If you ask me a question, I'm horrible at answering it. I have to tell a story, because I have enough clinical experience to do it that way. What you got, Nancy?
How do you handle elevated testosterone with PCOS?
Oh, How do you handle elevated testosterone? Well, once again, let's do this. I love that question because we're going to get this when we get to PCOS and everything that way. Here's what happens. If somebody actually has high cholesterol and low pregnenolone, they're missing the enzymes and things like that to convert. Okay, let me say it again. They're missing the enzymes and things like that to actually convert from one form to another. Okay, so when you actually have high testosterone and it's not converting into the estrogens that it needs to be, you're missing certain enzymes, you're missing certain activity in the actually liver and things like that that can actually be supported to know those pathways. See, that's why doctors like us are so important, because your doctor will have no freaking clue what to do, and they'll do what? They'll just put you on metformin trying to inhibit a pathway. See, that's the one thing. Most of their drugs, they understand how this works. They use drugs to inhibit or manipulate, not normalize that way. So once again, you're deficient in certain enzymes that once again can be measured that way to see what's converting, not converting, and get them in the right direction to get those testosterone levels back to normal. Okay? Nancy?
Okay, this question comes with a story. I had one successful pregnancy at age 30.
So one successful pregnancy at 30.
I'm almost 37 and have had 4 consecutive miscarriages.
Okay, and now you're 37 and had 4 consecutive miscarriages.
Is there hope to balance my hormones?
Absolutely, there's hope.
Trying to get pregnant.
She wanted to know if there's hope for her to get pregnant. Yes. Believe it or not, it's going to sound funny. Your body's genetically programmed for pregnancy, not miscarriage. I say that all the time too, because there's women that go, I can't carry a baby. Why? Genes. I'm like, no, your uterus is in your genes. That will be fine. Okay. Little pun there. But the point is this, is if you look at it this way, the most well-known hormone for actually what? Actually miscarriage is progesterone gain too low. It's one of the reasons why they jack you up with shots and different oral pills of progesterone when you actually have miscarriage on a regular basis. But guess what, young lady? What was that young lady's name? Just first name? The answer to that question, Nancy? Amanda. Here's what happens. There's your progesterone. Guess what happens? It converts into your cortisol, your cortisone, your aldosterone. So high amounts of inflammation. That means if you're eating something bad. That means if you're actually mentally stressed. That means if you have an infection. Will drain your progesterone levels. It's why stress is so bad for a woman, because it drains their progesterone, which it actually converts to a stress hormone, but it's also anabolic and maintains your uterus and other pelvic organs that you need, okay, like your ovaries and stuff like that. Well, actually, progesterone is used for all, even your breast tissue that way. So what happens is this: you had your one baby, your body has not recovered, and you become hormonally deficient, and now you can't get the levels up enough. And here's what happens, Amanda. I mean this sincerely. Miscarriage is emotionally devastating, but physically great for the body. I know that's going to hurt a lot of women, but understand this. Miscarriage is emotionally devastating to a woman, but guess what? For the body, it's essential, because either the mother was going to get hurt or the baby wasn't going to develop properly. And the body said, I have to get rid of it that way. Sad part is this: I don't want to see anybody go through a miscarriage. I don't want to see anybody ever do it. It's emotionally devastating. I literally cry for women that go through that way. It's devastating. But guess what? The body's saying, I can't do this, so I have to do it to get rid of it. Otherwise, the body could hurt, the mother could be hurt, or even the baby could not develop properly, and there could be some problems. All right? Nancy?
That's all we have.
That's all we have. Sure, we have to end on that one, on a miscarriage one. But Amanda, thank you so much for your question. I appreciate it that way, but that's a very emotional topic. And we're going to go, when we get to progesterone and other things, guess what happens? It's not a joke, ladies. You want to have babies, keep your body. I literally tell women, when you first get pregnant, you better rest for 3 months. You saying? Here's the cool thing is this. I literally had a fitness expert recently call me again, another one. All right? And if you look at her body-wise, guess what happens? I don't think she has an ounce of fat on her. Actually, she's ripped like crazy. She actually has and she's proud of it. And she built her whole career on what? Getting her abs shredded. The sad part is this: she doesn't have a cycle. She doesn't have a cycle. Let me say it again. She doesn't have a cycle. And I even said to her, I can't wait to test your hormones. And she basically wanted to prove me wrong. Well, guess what? Hopefully we can do a video of her. And hopefully she'll let us do a video of her. And actually, I'd love to show you that, ladies. Let me give you a little mental piece. Please do not work out every day. You're going to be very sick. Now, all the women, I can see it right now. There, thank God. Okay. Now, I'm not saying not be active and sit around. I'm saying you don't have to go to the gym every day. If you do, you're going to be sick. All right. No guy, no doc, or anything that's going to teach you that. But once again, they're not the ones measuring your hormones all the time and seeing the amount of physical stress you're putting on your body. It's like this. We know young runners, they lose their cycle all the time. You know why? They don't keep their fuel up for the body, and your hormones run out, and they actually don't cycle anymore. So all this put together, once again, the perspective that I'm going to bring you through this whole process is very different. But you know something? It's all based on how the body works. It's all actually can be measured, and you actually can really do wonderful things to change the direction of your hormonal health that way. So my name is Dr. Patrick Flynn, the Hormone Whisperer. Please do me a favor. If you have any questions, send it to askdrpatrick@twwclinics.com. I will always get back to you. Either me or one of my docs get back to you and answer the question that way. Continue to post. Please, if you'd like this information, I ask you, if there's one thing I will continue to do, I'll continue to put out mass amount of free information for you constantly. But please do me a favor, share and like this, because I believe it can change the direction of every woman, but also men's hormones in the whole world. Have a great day, guys.